Hi, Nathan.
Hello.
Hello. All righty. So what are you pressure washing? We heard you.
Oh, the house.
That sounds right.
Yeah. I'm up in the Pacific Northwest, so it's been a rainy winter as usual, and you got to get that stuff off the siding there.
You do. You don't know about that. All right. I am going to. So, hello, everybody. If you can hear us, let's consider this a volume test, and you will have a little hand to raise. So I'm hoping to see some people raise their hands. Oh, there's a hand from Sherry. All right, great. That means you guys can hear us. All right, we're going to wait another few minutes to get some last minute people to sign on before we get started. And I'm going to mute us both, and we'll be back in a few. All right, I'm going to start the video, and I'm going to unmute. Come over this way. Hi, everybody. Good morning, everybody. This is Amy Gamber. This is Annie Cantellis, who is our new commercial services person who will be taking over for me. But I'm here. We're going to do this together and hand off the duties. And here we have Nathan Graham, who is, I'm sorry, Nathan, you are the Director of Commercial Services for RPR. So you're a big, important dude.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so let me do a few things. Everybody who's seen a webinar before has heard some of this, so bear with us. The webinar is about an hour long. This webinar is not approved for CE credit, so everybody who's watching it is muted. If you have a question, all you need to do is mouse over the screen and you will see a toolbar appear either at the top or bottom of your screen. There is a box that says Q&A. If you click on that, you can type into it whatever question you have. Annie and I will keep track of the questions as we go along and make sure that Nathan has an opportunity to answer them if you have any. So we are recording the webinar. Let me double check. Yes. And we will post the webinar recording on our Facebook page. You'll be able to access it through the commercial playlist on the Texas Realtors Facebook page. We'll post the link to the Texas Commercial Facebook page, and we will also post the link in the events tool on the web on the Texas website, Texas Realtors website itself. I'm still adjusting to the rebranding from TAR to Texas Realtors, so forgive me, we are all still stumbling with that a little bit as we get used to the new name. I think that's everything I need to tell you now, so I'm gonna zone us out and hand this over to Nathan, who's gonna tell you how to convert trends into deals, and we will talk to you guys later.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the introduction there, and thank you all for joining me this morning. My name is Nathan Graham. Feel free, if y'all want to, really quickly, just to jot down my email address, nathang@narrpr.com. That way, after today's presentation, if y'all have any questions and want to reach out, feel free to do so. Always love hearing from folks, learning what y'all are doing within RPR, what we can do to make it better, and all that good stuff. So yeah, today what we're going to do is kind of look at some of the trends going on, kind of on a nationwide basis, and examine, some of the motivational factors that might be driving those trends. And then I'll jump into RPR and kind of show y'all some examples of how to use mostly the site selection tools in order to kind of look for opportunities wherever you might be. Before I do that, though, I just want to go over the system kind of in general. So y'all, if this is the first time you've heard of RPR, especially on the commercial side, just give you a quick idea as to what's available to you. Basically, what we're here to do at RPR is help realtors make more money, close more deals, and reinforce the realtor brand. And on the commercial side, what we've built out is a property-centric database that helps users do things like site selection, obviously research and understand the basic properties in their marketplace, do things like trade area research, so you can run a quick 3-mile radius report and understand all the economics and demographics of an area, and I'll show you all how to do that. Run investment analysis, and of course generate all the reports that your clients are going to want to see and understand. So using data to identify local opportunities. How this all works is, you have basic collectors out there, such as the U.S. government that produces surveys or, the various expenditure reports. And then you have consolidators that house that data together in a way that utilizers like RPR are able to incorporate within various, systems, products, and so forth. So, like I said, some of the collector outputs that you're going to find within RPR are going to be things like the community survey report, the expenditure reports. There are the director of major malls, Info USA business directories for all of our business points. And of course, a big one coming up pretty soon, the census is going to be here again in about another year. So that's where all of the baseline information that's within RPR is going to be coming from. But we're not the ones that are going out there and reviewing all the surveys and entering those into spreadsheets and so on and so forth. We actually have a partnership with a company called Esri, who consolidates all of that data for us and makes it usable. If you've ever heard of CCIM's Site to Do Business platform, they use Esri as well, a little bit differently from how we do it, but it's the same basic information, a lot of the same tools you'll find in RPR within Site to Do Business as well. And as you can see, a lot of major companies and cities and economic development groups are all using this information in order to be a little bit more strategic in where they're placing their clients or where they're looking to spend tax dollars and those kind of things. And a lot of what they're doing within the Esri data sources is kind of what I'm going to be touching on today via site selection and just via understanding the communities that surround the buildings that y'all work with day in and day out. So as a utilizer of this data, what we're striving for is really to just become, kind of like that, I hate this term, but it's a really good one, one-stop shop for, all of the research and analysis that you all typically do in a day-to-day workflow while helping out your clients. So you'll see things in RPR like public record data, Esri's tapestry segmentation, which if you're not familiar with, is basically consumer profiles. So they, for the last 30 plus years, have been developing a system to group people together within communities based on shared attributes. So if you're looking to be around, people that are middle-aged without kids who, are renters and prefer to, eat organic food and that kind of fun stuff, that's where you can really discover those data points. And then, of course, all the demographic, economic, traffic counts, business points, and that kind of thing. So, a lot of these things you can go to various websites or pay subscriptions for, but, the good thing about being a realtor, once you sign up and create your account within RPR, which, again, there's no cost to do so, we're one of the NAR benefits, you get all that information on a nationwide basis in kind of a one-stop shop. So that's kind of what we're doing. Before we jump into some of the fun stuff, as I like to say, I want to just point out a couple of things. We are on a commercial conference call here or a webinar, but there is a whole nother side. It's probably a lot bigger than the commercial side, actually, which is all the residential data points. And again, y'all have access, even if you don't belong to an MLS, you still have access to all the public record information. There's various other reports and CMA tools that are on the residential side. So just be aware that that's there, if you do a little residential here and there. We also have what are called broker tool sets. So this allows companies to brand all of the RPR stuff with their logos. So if you enjoy marketing, you enjoy your brand, and you want to promote that and kind of own this data, I can show you all maybe towards the end of the presentation. If somebody's interested, just type in a question and I'll show you all how to get that started. But there are other tools within the broker data set, most of which are for residential use only. But for me, coming from a marketing background, that branding is worth it all in itself. So I definitely would encourage y'all to take a look at that. And of course, in the day of mobile age, we do have a mobile app as well. Again, no cost to download. It's one application, and when you install and set up your account, basically this little cog will tell the system how you're going to use the app for that day. So there's a residential side and a commercial side, just like there is on the website. So if you haven't already, basically everything that is in the commercial website is going to be on the mobile app. So you can, be standing in front of a property, click on the public record indicator and see, some of the owner information, see some of the basic details, tax details, all that kind of cool stuff. So lots of good use out of that application. And what's probably even more pertinent for y'all, the investment analysis tool within RPR commercial and residential is really, really good in my mind. This allows you to do your typical 2 to 10 year holds and then discover basically the internal rate of return, cash on cash returns, equity multiples. You can also do a flip mode. So if you do work in the residential flipping world, there's that. And if you are a land developer, there's actually what are called back of the envelope analysis tools. So you can kind of get a good understanding of what a development project might look like. So if you haven't looked at the investment analysis tool, I would highly encourage you to do so. I'll take a moment just to point out where it is on the site, but just be aware that, there's tons of training online. So this is the course that we're doing. There's probably 9 or 10 more different courses. But if you're interested in learning about the investment analysis tool, there's probably 3 or 4 webinars that you can watch whenever you want on the RPR website. All right. So assuming there's no questions about the general platform, let's go ahead and start talking about some of the trends that are going on out there. So like most of y'all, I'm sure everybody reads the Commercial Real Estate Alert or read it last year when it first came out. It's a free report that Swanepoel Group did. And if you've never heard of Swanepoel Group, they've been working with NAR and the research team for years and produce an annual kind of what's going on in the world of real estate. The first time ever they did a commercial one a couple years back, and it was really, really great. So if you haven't taken a look at that already, you can go to NAR's website and download that and give it a peruse. It's about 120 some pages, but it outlines a lot of things that are driving decisions and driving trends within the commercial real estate. So things like capital markets, demographic shifts, millennials coming into the workplace, how that's going to affect office space layouts, the driving need for things like senior care facilities due to retirements and the aging boomers age, crowdfunding as a source of capital, e-commerce trends, how that's driving and changing the retail outlook, and not only that, the shift in how we're looking at things like old malls. A lot of those are getting kind of rebuilt out. Technology trends are driving just about everything this day and age. And then, of course, you always have various regulations that are going on, nationwide, but also even state to state. Another report that I enjoy reading every year is the Emerging Trends in Real Estate. So this is coming from, as you can see, PwC and the Urban Land Institute. This one's really good because it kind of looks at what people are actually doing with those trends. So things like, adaptive reuse of space, some of the malls transitioning, office spaces that keep changing, things, going from open offices to now these things where they built up miniature walls around people. I think they were called cubicles back in the 90s, seem to be coming back into fruition, but hopefully they're a little bit nicer than the ones that we had back then. Opportunity zones obviously has been a huge topic, and kind of learning about those and how you might be able to set up investments around those types of opportunities is pretty great. Flexible leases, people aren't looking for 10-year leases as much anymore, 1-year leases, especially with, one of the groups that we're going to talk about, those omni-channels that are switching from the e-commerce platforms and trying to build in some brick and mortar. They're kind of just dipping their toes in the water, So, and then of course, amenity creep. And what that means is, back in the day when you had a multifamily space, people really just were looking for maybe a parking spot, maybe a nice person at the front desk. Nowadays, you have cold lockers for food delivery. You have just all these different amenities that, as developers have been adding over the years, are getting pretty incredible, and some might even say a little over the top. So it's a really interesting read. Again, this is another free PDF that you can download that I'd be happy to kind of help you all find. I'm not exactly positive off the top of my head where I got that at, but it's a great read to kind of understand, what's going on in the United States, and you can see there even Canada. So I picked a couple that, just from being at different conferences and stuff that a lot of people seem to be talking about and using in their examples. Some of y'all might be familiar with who Casey Conway is. He's a great follow on things like LinkedIn. He works a lot with CCIM, and I believe it's the Alabama Center for Real Estate. And he does a lot of obviously commercial real estate stuff. And I saw him speak the other day, and one of his shining examples of adaptive reuse was this giant mall near maybe some of y'all on the call today, actually. So they turned the Big Town Mall into a FedEx delivery system. So the thing that probably drove this, out of, use is now what kind of took over its place. So, the big thing with the malls, I actually have a good friend of mine that works in the mall sector, and he's been kind of telling me how there's just been a lot of shifts from, both transitioning these types of buildings into better uses, like last mile delivery types of sites, but also making, the mall spaces more of a destination that you can go shopping at, so you're adding things like, go-kart racing tracks and, all these fun things that people want to come to. And then, as the kids are playing, the parents can go and do their shopping at. So it's just, the whole mall thing is fascinating to me, and what all we're doing with those malls. Here's another great example. This one's up in Providence, Rhode Island. This is, I believe this was, built back in the 1900s. And as you can see, just a kind of very simple streamline, and it's actually been transitioned into apartments. So up here at the very top, they have all the apartments and then another road down there, but they've also, in some of these little corridors, open spaces in the bottom floor, they have things like coffee shops and those kind of cool options. So it's interesting to see what folks are doing. And one of the best things that, I love about the commercial space is, it's a very adaptive group. People see opportunities, especially when there is, things like malls that are losing value. Transitioning them into something of a higher and better use is one of the most beautiful things out there. Another cool opportunity here is, transitioning some of the office spaces into more flexible, multi-purpose. You can see here, this is a building in Pittsburgh. It used to be 80,000 of just office, but now it's actually transitioned into more of a apartment workspace kind of concept. So all of the old office spaces have been transitioned into these types of bedroom types of opportunities, but they have conference rooms scattered throughout. So it's really focused on those people who, maybe work from home and, want to have a apartment space that's more suited to that type of a lifestyle. And then also have the opportunity, if they need to have a meeting with, 10 or 12 different people, to utilize those spaces. Another interesting thing about this building in particular, you can see this big green area in that bicycle. One of the things that they learned through doing a bunch of research, like we're going to be able to do in RPR, is that people commute a lot via bicycle in this neighborhood, this area. So one of the big things that they wanted to do is to make sure that they accommodated that type of a lifestyle choice. So, changes in transportation, everybody's talking about automation in cars and all those good things, but it's just, all these different technology changes and going back to simpler things like bicycles are considerations that your clients should probably be making just to make themselves more attractive to the community that they're about to enter into. The search for balanced omni-channels. So this I kind of grabbed. You can see Liz Wolfe. She's a writer for the National Real Estate of Investors. She had a pretty great article about, the kind of e-commerce sites, your Warby Parkers and so forth that are now trying to find a little bit of retail space, some bricks and mortar. And it's almost looking at it as just another part of marketing. So you can see here's an example in my neck of the woods, Portland, Oregon. So this is Warby Parker. They used to be strictly an online opportunity, but they've started kind of dipping their toes in the waters of bricks and mortar. And like I said, it's an interesting concept where, it's almost a marketing thing for them. But it also allows them to touch, people who aren't comfortable just ordering glasses online and, having 5 pairs shipped to them and picking the best one. It gives them an opportunity to kind of touch those customer bases as well. It also provides people with an easy drop off if there is a Warby Parker in your area to, take damaged goods there, kind of see what's going on. So, but you can see they're a lot more playful than some of your typical retailers. They have, things that attract people and just try to have some fun with it. So again, it's kind of more of a marketing ploy than just a strictly retail opportunity type of business. But, short-term leases are big for these types of consumers because they are coming from a different space entirely. The web space and then into brick and mortar is a big transition for a lot of these types of clients. Another one, Bonobos, this was down in the Georgia area. So what I thought was kind of interesting about this one was, they wanted to put up stores similar to Warby Parker around, younger folks that do a lot of online shopping. And you can see here it's used for multiple assets such as pickups and exchanges in the local marketplace, just to kind of be a more direct relationship so you're not mailing things back. And also with this company, they ship packages of different clothing items every month. It's one of those subscription-based platforms. And a lot of people don't know how to measure themselves very well. So they will actually do all the measurements for you as well, get you set up with that subscription platform and that kind of thing. So again, it's just another way to touch a customer base that, just being online doesn't allow you to really do. Industrial boom keeps on booming. This one's from Champagne Williams from Biz Now. This one y'all have probably heard tons about, the last mile delivery concept. Urban warehousing is another phrase for it. So this was a space built up in Minneapolis. Basically just, won a bunch of the e-commerce 2.0 rise of the urban warehouse, won a bunch of awards for the way it's set up. But, just the concept of being, closer to the people that are doing the shopping online, 2-hour delivery from Amazon, they can't be, 60 miles away from the customer base if they're going to promise 2-hour deliveries and that sort of thing. So, this is a big example of that last mile delivery. But I've also seen, if you think back to that one office space in Pittsburgh, I've seen instances where, they're transitioning office spaces that are no longer of use into last mile delivery points. So it's kind of an interesting concept. Typically you would go from an industrial space and kind of that was the bottom floor for development and move up to things like office or multifamily. But nowadays, the industrial space is getting a nice dollar per square foot. It's become a pretty great investment. And another interesting concept within the warehousing world is this multi-story warehousing. So this was an example just north of me up in Seattle, Washington, but 2-story warehousing centers in areas like Seattle where you can't really build a new ginormous warehousing space within the city limits. So people are going up. If there's demand, there's going to be some revenues from it. It's kind of interesting the way you have this laid out, but multi-story warehousing just going up and up and up. Eventually I imagine there's going to be a limit, but it seems to be functioning pretty well for them so far. And this was probably the newest concept that I found while I was doing my research. So this is from Mark Hamstra from the Restaurants and Hospitality publication. And it's called Ghost Kitchens. And, there's a company out there called Cook and Deliver. So this is pretty cool. So this is an example from a company called Kitchens United. Basically what these are just typically, basements or maybe some industrial space or some old retail space possibly. But they've basically transitioned these into multiple kitchens. And instead of having, consumers come to these kitchens and dine, this is where they are starting to do all of the, delivery or the Crunchy Roll, their Uber Eats pickups and that sort of thing. And it's working pretty well, actually. So you can see this is a 12,000 square foot kitchen space. 12 different restaurants are operating. And what I like about this, and I'm sure y'all have run into this as well, if you go to maybe a smaller restaurant and they also happen to do a lot of, Uber Eats deliveries, you just have that constant flow of Uber Eats delivery people coming in there. If there's a line outside, they're kind of jumping ahead of the line and, just making it a crowded space. And also they're taxing the kitchen staff in the back. So this allows the main restaurant to focus more on the dine-in consumer while also making it more effective and more efficient to deliver food. And typically these are popping up in more centralized areas so that even if the kitchen, the restaurant itself is maybe on the skirts of a city perchance, this might be more in the central location. So it's easier to get those deliverers out there. And some of the people that are doing this, so the Cloud Kitchens, this is CEO Travis Kalanick's company redeveloping a bunch of industrial spaces and even parking lots in the kitchens, which I thought was kind of interesting, going back to some of the autonomous cars. What are we going to do with all the parking lots that are out there now? I know right now we're all screaming that there's no parking in downtown areas, but if the future is autonomous, there is going to be some opportunities to transition those into things like, delivery kitchens and so on. So I thought that was a pretty interesting concept and something that's was new to me, at least. So maybe it is to you as well. And of course, demand in co-working industry keeps on climbing. WeWork, I'm sure y'all have all heard of WeWork at this point in time. This is just an example of one of the offices in Portland. So we all understand the concept of this, short-term desk rentals, but they're also transitioning now into creating even custom spaces. So this company, Notel, basically they have a standard type of concept for office places, and they have an on-demand where corporations, maybe they're doing a short-term rental because they are having to hire for the next year. Maybe they're like us, and they every once in a while have to bring on new product people when we're trying to push through a sprint release. They allow you to kind of build out a space kind of to your aspects and your wants and needs. So it's kind of a different aspect of WeWork. WeWork kind of builds it out and then you come and fill it. Here they're allowing people to actually have that short-term comfort, but also some customization as well. And the last one that I kind of wanted to talk about was just, investors are looking at non-traditional assets right now as well. Cap rates are, priced to perfection. I've heard that term quite a bit lately. Stocks probably about the same way, if not maybe a little expensive even. And you really can't get much out of, just putting your money in a bank account. So people are looking at some of those non-traditional asset classes. And so some of the top ones, as you can see here, people are looking at data centers, which makes just a whole ton of sense. If we are going to have all those autonomous cars driving around, it's going to take a lot of programming power and a lot of data storage in order to kind of keep all those on the same track and make sure everything's running smoothly. So it's pretty interesting. Healthcare, including the senior housing, and then of course some mobile towers. With the whole 5G push, those are becoming more and more of a investment opportunity as well. So we spent a little bit of time talking about the different opportunities in there. Now what I want to do is kind of jump into the actual site here. And we will show you how you can use, like I said, mostly the attribute-based site selection tool, but just want to kind of show you how RPR Commercial can help you identify where people who might be appealing to some of those various trends are actually living in your communities. So the first one that I thought I might look at is that Omni-Channel. So the e-commerce player who is trying to set up some bricks and mortar in your communities. So this, of course, is the homepage of RPR. If I was just looking for properties, I would start here. But since I'm trying to find the people that are going to support a business, I want to come to this go-to analysis section. When I click on go to analysis, you can see here there are 3 different options. Where are the right people for a business? What's the best business or best location for a business? And then what's the best business for a location? So really quickly, these bottom 2, these are what we call retail gap analysis. So Basically what this one's doing is on a strictly competitive basis, if I have, let's say, a clothing store company that wants to come to town, where's the best location for a clothing store just based on the number of clothing stores and the number of people in that marketplace that can support another clothing store. So it's kind of a over-under saturation type of thing. And then this one shows me, maybe I'm trying to fill a vacant space and I want to understand, what the opportunities are as far as being underserved. Plug in a zip code, a city, a county, et cetera, and you can kind of see what's over and under supplied in that marketplace. Now, personally, I always tend to lean on this one for the simple option that this allows me to find areas that are appealing to multiple different types of sectors. So not only retail, but multifamily, senior living care, and those kind of things as well. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So it's a pretty simple process. Basically, you start here with number one, and you type in the area that you want to go to. So let's say that we want to start in Fort Worth, Texas. And then what we can do now is we can actually come through here and we can select up to 5 different attributes of the people that we want to be around. So if I was, advising somebody that's in the Omni-Channel world, you'd have that conversation with them. You'd figure out who their customer base is, which would then help you determine where you want to be. So you can look at things like, let's just say, for instance, our clients said that they want to be around folks that are younger, folks that have been spending a lot of money on internet orders, and then also we want to be around folks that are already doing a little bit of shopping at some of the bricks and mortar clothing stores. So what we can do now is look at who they are, and we can come in here and you can see once you select that main category, there's a whole bunch of other categories that pop up here. So there's a lot to kind of dig into. This is definitely one of those tools where you just kind of want to play around with it and see what's available for you to kind of utilize and discover. But we're going to look at age, and then you can see lots of different segments for age. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the early adulthood. And if you're curious, what is early adulthood, you can come over here to this little question mark. You can see this is people between the ages of 20 and 39. That this is coming from the U.S. Census American Community Survey, and it was updated by Esri in 2018. So then we click on the OK button, and now we can add more criteria. So the other thing I wanted to look at was spending on internet orders. So we can come down here to, I believe it's how they buy. And you can see ordered from websites, amount spent on internet orders. So there's a couple of different ways you can break this down. You could also look at things like where they purchased certain clothes. So for us, though, let's just look at amount spent on internet orders. And we want to be around people that are buying online, so we can do greater than $500 on an annual basis. And then down here, we can also come to, we want to still be around people that are doing their shopping at bricks and mortar. So again, we'll come down to how they behave. And we will look at shopped at brick and mortar stores. And you can see there's a whole bunch of different kind of bricks and mortar categories. We'll just do shopped at clothing stores. But if you kind of have a similar type of style of clothing that's down here listed, you could just select one of these. What I did here is selected all of them, so it's just all shopping at clothing stores, and click OK. If I had other categories I wanted to utilize, I could definitely go ahead and plug those in. If not, you just click on the Run Analysis button. And what the system's going to be doing in the background here is kind of crunching all the numbers for the area that you entered, and it's going to identify via different geographies where those people live, and so you can then target those areas for specific properties and so forth. And obviously sometimes this takes a little bit of time. Hopefully it'll crunch the numbers quickly here. Sometimes being on the webinar kind of slows it down a little bit, but Fort Worth, Texas is a pretty big area, so hopefully I didn't go too broad there. All right. Apologies, y'all. Let's give it just a couple of more seconds. If not, maybe I'll narrow it down just a little bit. There we go. All right, so as you can see, here's the analysis results for Fort Worth, Texas. The criteria here, clear means there's not a match, all the way up to best, which you can see are these darker purple areas. here's all the different criteria that I have used here. If you want to kind of see what the splaying is, you can click on the show more. And if I want to be more inclusive, you can see I can go all the way down here and grab that one as well. If you want to be more exclusive, you can kind of bump that up also. Typically, I'll be honest, I really don't mess with those too much. I just kind of let the system keep it at an average basis. And then you can see there's multiple geographies, zip codes, minor neighborhoods. If we narrow down to a zip code, for instance, you could also see things like all the way down to the census block group. So we have all the basic geographies you could probably want to analyze. And then down here, we have what I like to call is a benchmarking report. So it allows me to compare one neighborhood to the other neighborhood, or if I change it to zip codes, it allowed me to compare one zip code to the next zip code, which is really nice because it allows you to say to your client, hand over this report, say, hey, here's why, I think we should be in, the 76040 area as compared to some of these down marketplaces down here. Another good thing about this report, a lot of y'all, just being experts in your field probably know some of this information, where younger people are living, where people are doing a lot of shopping and so on. But your clients might not. So it's a great kind of resource that you can develop a report for and back up what you've been telling your clients or what you plan to tell your clients or advise your clients. So for both of those reasons, I think it's a pretty powerful tool. What's cool about this now is, if you wanted to then jump into the next step within RPR and do a search for properties, you can select which ones you want to go to. And then down here, you can either do a listing search or an all property search. And remember, the difference between these two buttons, all properties means that it pulls up everything that we have in the system. So that would include all the public record information on the buildings there and the for sale and the for lease properties. So that's kind of how that works. Also, let me show you, actually, let's just do a quick all property search and I'll show you kind of what this looks like. So I selected those top 4 zip codes there. You can see here, it pulled up 5,981 properties. Things that are for sale are going to be in that nice little blue area. If it's just an off-market property, it's going to have a gray kind of flag there. If it's distressed, we'll show that as well. For sale, for lease, pending, etc. You can also then come to the map if you wanted to, and you could use some of the different map functions. So, if we are looking for some retail opportunities, and let's just say that this area is kind of intriguing to us, we could then come here to the business points of interest, and we could actually, use these POIs to do a quick look and just kind of understand what other retail goods are there. So if we want to look at apparels and accessories, all these little dots will pop up, and you can see there's a Cato women's clothing store. Not exactly sure how to say that, but you can see, the square footage. You can see the sales volume estimates. And this is all, again, coming from the partnership that we have with Esri, and they're pulling this from the U.S. Census and Info USA surveys. So it's a nice way just to kind of get a really quick look at what the competition might look like, what might not be there, what, other retailers are going to be attracting the same customer bases that I want to be around and so on. So it's nice to have those POIs there available for you. All right. So with that, I want to go back into the RPR because I want to do another kind of example for you. So let's say that, I'm interested in, maybe not opening up a WeWork or something like that, but some sort of shared office space concept. But, maybe I'm kind of new. Maybe I just want to understand the thought process behind why maybe somebody like WeWork went to a certain space. So for this one, what I'm going to do is actually start off with the search area. And the key here, since I'm going to be looking at a property that's not listed for sale, is to just have this lay on the all properties. And then I'm actually going to go to a place in Austin, Texas. And this is actually a WeWork building, not the whole building, but they have a couple of floors in this space. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm going to go to this building, and you can see here we can get out of the parking or the little pass through that the Google Maps people brought us to. But there's the building. They have 3 or 4 floors here of WeWork office space. And what I'm trying to understand is, why did they pick here? What was it about this space that jumped out to them or was appealing to them? And in order to do this, what I want to do is develop what's called a trade area report. So I can come to this bigger map area, There's my subject property. And then I can use these different drawing tools, for instance. Personally, I always like using these map pins, either drive time or the radius distance tool. So we can drop this drive time pin, and there's a whole bunch of different options. I'd probably say, 10 minutes are usually my go-to. That will allow me to compare, possibly the 3 minute, the 5 minute, and the 10 minutes around this property to get a good understanding of the space here. But then you click on the apply button, and you can see Google goes ahead and draws us this nice little drive time area. And then we just click on create a trade area report, click OK. And it's going to default to the more details there. And we can run this report. And while this is generating, I think I saw a question pop up. So on the commercial properties for sale / lease, can you find the same properties that are on CoStar and LoopNet? The answer to that is no. Unfortunately, CoStar and LoopNet do not share listing data with us. Our data sources are primarily going to be the local CIEs and MLSs across the country. Now that said, we are starting to partner with other national listing platforms. So there's a company called TotalCommercial.com. Some of you might be using already. They actually have a decent sized footprint in Texas. They started in Florida and have kind of just expanded from there. So we have all of their properties in the system that are available nationwide to realtors. And we're also looking at a couple other companies. We're in communications with Brevitas and Crexy. We've talked to Build Out to maybe become a syndication partner of theirs as well. So we are currently expanding that amount of listing data because that's a typical request that we get. What was the name of the company again? So the name of those companies, Brevitas and Crexy. And then also we're talking a little bit with Build Out. And then Total Commercial is already available within RPR as well. So if there's listings that are going into Total Commercial that you have, they're populating from there into RPR. Do you also have access for land for sale? It's hard to pull this data since it's all over the place. Yes, I feel your pain there. Again, the same listing sources that I kind of just went over is where we're getting all of our land listings, but we do have land listings in there. And for land, we've actually, so RLI has kind of what the name of their listing site is now, but we are trying to figure out if there's a way that we can work with them as well. So hopefully we'll, just in general, as far as it goes with listings, we are trying to expand where those listings are coming from for y'all. Hopefully that kind of helps. All right, looks like the other question kind of disappeared there, which is perfect because our report's ready. So let's go ahead and download the report. And again, the whole reason I wanted to run this report was to get a better understanding of the community around this property so that I can see what to look for when I go and look for my own, shared space. So this is the trade area report. This is all coming from Esri's data consolidation. Here are the different tapestry segments. If you remember all the way back to the slideshow, Esri, what they've been doing for the last 30 years with a lot of that data is categorizing people together based on shared or similar attributes so that you can begin to understand various preferences that they have and basically just dive a little bit deeper into understanding these folks beyond just that they're in their 20s and they make this amount of money and so on. So it's a really cool way to kind of understand the community. Education levels, preferred activities are down here, support the environment, stay connected via laptops. Spend wages on rent, that's never good. Active on Facebook, Twitter, take public transportation, walk and bike. Again, thinking back to that office space in Pittsburgh, looking at this type of information gave them the idea that, hey, we really need to ramp up the amount of bike parking that we have here because all of our consumers or the people we're trying to target seem to get around, Pittsburgh on a bicycle. So that's pretty cool, but this is where you can really dive into a lot of those details as well. So a really brief description about who they are, their neighborhood, economic profiles, and then the market profile in general. So enjoy wine at bars and restaurants, shop at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, all types of just little insights that are just geared to make sure that you're attracting these folks the best that you can, and that your client's going to be successful. All right, and then of course we show where this information is coming from the last time we get it updated. And all of our Esri data, just so y'all know, gets updated once a year. So this is the kind of more typical economic and demographic data sets that we're looking at. So, this might be good for us to kind of pay attention to, just to see if there's anything that jumps out at us, such as, young adults, college education, population change. If there's any of these data points that jump out, maybe that's why WeWork wanted to come here versus somewhere else. So now you're kind of creating your own, story as to what you think would make this successful. But, a lot of times you can kind of get that detail there. So first thing that jumps out to me, 5-minute area around here has seen almost 35% growth since 2010. Maybe a good concept is to be around people or areas that have a lot of growth from the 2010 census. Total daytime pop might be an important thing for you. Daytime density, household size details are here for you. Median age. Here's one that jumps out at me. A lot of 20-year-olds are in this marketplace as well. So that would indicate people that are, in college, maybe just getting out of college. Maybe they're, working with startups and all those kind of details. So that might be something you want to factor in. We have marriage details here for you. Household income levels, that could be a factor as well. Unemployment rates, employment count by industry, maybe this is the employment sector that we want to try to target. Employment, scientific, and technical. And then down here we have education levels, which I'm going to go ahead and guess there's a lot of people with higher education, so that could be a factor for us. Commute times, home values, and then lastly here we have this best business report. And you can kind of get an idea here just looking at what is over and under saturated. Maybe another thing that they wanted to make sure is that they're around a lot of amenities. So, this probably wouldn't be the best place for me if I was looking for some retail opportunities, but knowing that there's a lot of bars and restaurants and shoe stores and shopping and all those kind of things, maybe that's an indication that, there's a lot of good things that people can go and do and might attract them to this neighborhood anyways. And then, of course, we have traffic counts down here to kind of wrap everything up. So again, the whole point of me running this report was so that I could then, take those details and then come back to my site selection tool and plug in where I'm looking to create this, new kind of co-shared office space. So let's say that I'm actually going into San Antonio. Select that. And then I'm just going to plug in a couple of those attributes that kind of jumped out at me. So the first one was that young adult. So we're looking at who they are. And again, looking at folks of a certain age range. We could just do the 20s if we wanted to, or we could come down here and look at, again, that early adulthood if we want to kind of go a little bit beyond just 20-year-olds. So we'll just go with that. And then at least a college education. So again, who they are. And we can come down here to education. And then down here, at least a college education. And then next up, that population change that jumped out so heavily. That's going to be found under this facts and stats area. Things like population stats, housing stats, trends, income trends. So these two will actually help you look forward as well as kind of look back a little bit at the population change. And then the last one, we want to look at their employment status. So what they do, industry of employment, and we were looking for professional, scientific, and technical. All right, so those are the categories that I want to utilize here. And hopefully it doesn't take quite as long to run this one. And I think, oh, that question disappeared. So no need to answer that. So again, we're trying to use the data sets within RPR to understand why a decision might have been made by, theoretically somebody who might be smarter than us, maybe not. But from there, you can kind of see here what the best matches are. You can see here what geographies we're looking at. So we can choose these various neighborhoods if we wanted to. And just like we looked at earlier, basically what we're trying to do is just identify where these top matches are going to be for us. So let me go ahead and, let's just switch this to zip codes. And we have that one. And, maybe we want to kind of sort these a certain way. We could look at, college education, for instance, or maybe we want to focus in on population change. You can kind of see, you can sort these pretty easily and allow yourself to kind of select them this way as well. So just a real quick, easy way to do this. And then just like we had done before, let me select a couple more. We could do a listing search at this point in time. And then you can see there's 11 different properties that are listed for sale. Here's a nice little office space potentially that we could transition. Maybe not the typical type of WeWork space, but it might work for your community and your settings. And then from here, you can run that trade area report again, and you can kind of see if not only those key criteria are matched, because we know that those top 4 or 5 that we put in there are going to be a match, but what else might you be able to do to kind of attract people to come and work in this shared office space also. And then another cool thing, just to kind of point it out, since I talked a little bit about on the slide, since this is going to be an investment, you can look at this as a property analysis for investors. And this is how you would actually jump into the Evaluate platform. And from here, you can enter in your cash flows, so your revenues, your expenses. And then once you get beyond this kind of quick load screen, you can add things like, all your one-time expenses, all your renovations, your capital reserves that you're putting in your coffers there, the one-time sales expenses. And basically, again, what you can do is understand on the internal rate of return or the equity multiple or the cash on cash return basis, how well is that going to perform for you? So that's kind of my concept as far as utilizing RPR to identify the attributes and then plug in those attributes into the site selection toolbox.
Hey, Nate?
Yes.
Question that asks if you can use multiple zip codes to create an overlay for comparisons with that, I think with the site search.
You would have to run them individually, but once you run one of those, you can develop a report, and I'll show you what those look like. Let's see. Where is a trade area analysis? So this one is one that I ran a while back for Massachusetts. So you would just be able to run this report and kind of see each one that way. But within the report itself, you can see it's going to compare each geography. So this is actually the census block group. But if I had set it to zip codes, each zip code would be compared in this one report. So maybe that's kind of the answer you're looking for, instead of having to run multiples, unless you're trying to do different counties or cities or that kind of thing, then you would have to develop a different report for each of them. Does that make sense?
If you can run those analyses with residential properties.
The trade area reports?
Yeah.
No. And the reason for that is, with the fair housing, there's a lot of information in there that would violate that law if you handed it over to somebody that was going to buy a home and then live in it. That said, if you're looking to help an investor, either flip a house or turn it into a rental property, then you should be able to use it. But I'd always just check with your broker in charge and make sure you're not doing anything illegal with the fair housing rules and regs, because I know those differ somewhat from state to state. But from what I've been told, if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint, you can use them. If you're looking at it for an owner-occupier of a house, then you cannot use them.
Okay. While I have you, we did have somebody ask a follow-up question on the land listings. I didn't know if you want to deal with that now or wait and loop around back to that.
Sure. What was the question?
The question says, on the land listings for sale in RPR, it says land-residential. I see some land listed by our office, which is commercial. Is there a way we can make those changes, or how does that category get applied to the land listings?
Yeah, that's something I put in a bug request to get addressed, hopefully soon. I don't even know how that happened, to be honest with you. It's interesting when you're working with a big system like this. Sometimes you make a little adjustment and it changes things. So yeah, we're aware of that, and I'm trying to get that fixed. Basically, all land, the way it works within our system, if somebody in the MLS enters a piece of land and they categorize it however they want to, we know that land can be developed into multiple scenarios. So all land comes across both residential and commercial, and that's probably what triggered that kind of thing. So I know it says residential, but it can be used obviously for commercial uses as well. And I would hope that people will just, not be scared away by seeing that word, and will still jump into the details and understand it. But yeah, that's something we're aware of and working on.
It seems like it would be hard to figure out that it was commercial too if you did any sort of,
yeah, exactly. Land can be whatever the developer sees it for and whatever you can zone it for. So yeah, I don't think that would scare off too many people, but yeah, we are aware of that.
And heaven knows you guys have the information to back that up. So.
Right. Oh man. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, I want to do one more example. We can probably wrap this up in the next 5 minutes or so, but just kind of going off of some of the different investment types. Senior care has been a pretty big thing the last few years. And I wanted to show y'all this little setup that a gentleman in Atlanta that only works with senior care investors kind of divulged to me. Hopefully he doesn't mind. So we're going to go into Galveston County, Texas. And, for this gentleman, what he looks for are, obviously, this might be a shocker, but areas that have a lot of seniors. But then he also wants to understand the home ownership percentages, because, if you own your home, you can then sell it. Hopefully you have a lot of equity built up in that property, and then you can utilize that to, afford to live in the nice new senior care facility that we're building. He wants to also understand the net worth of the people in the community, with the thought being, is he going to be doing something? I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the villages in Florida where there's, thousands of acres and, 15 different golf courses and just, amenities out the wazoo for all their senior care residents. Or if you're going to do something a little bit more simpler, maybe, an 8-room kind of, housed nursing facility, that kind of thing. So those kind of things are important to them. So I wanted to kind of show you how that would work here. So again, starting off with the age group, and then coming down here, and this time we're just going to look at seniors. Click OK. Next one that we're going to look at is the facts and stats. I believe y'all probably saw this earlier, but we have the housing statistics, and this will allow you to break down areas based on renters and owners, as well as total housing units. And then lastly here, what we're going to do is we can look at the net worth, so who they are. And really quickly, I also want to point out, another trend that I've seen a lot of, and I'm sure, especially if you work in the residential world, you see it as well, but people not being able to buy their first home due to student loan debt, which, would kind of make it seem like they might be longer term renters. If you're ever looking for those types of folks, you can actually look at this personal finance and other debt. And we do have student loan debt as an option here for you as well. So again, just lots of different stuff in here that you can kind of take a look at. For this, we're going to look at the median net worth of the inhabitants. And you know what, let's throw one more in here. This is just off the cusp of my head, but what they buy. And you can see down here, we do have a healthcare category. And so we can put in, either all healthcare, or if we're considering, having on-staff nursing for our senior care facility, click OK. And then we can run this analysis. And just like we've kind of seen before, you can see the cities, you can break it down by zip codes. And once we kind of know what areas we want to look at, let's just select, I don't want that one. Let's just go with this one here, and we can look at the listings. And if I was going to be then doing, a development project, here's a whole bunch of land here for us. So let's say, I don't know, let's just select, that might be a little small. Let's try and see if there's a good one for acreage wise. Let's go big. We'll go 22 acres here. So here's, the land listing. And then what we can do now at this point, if I was looking at, trying to do a development project, go into the property analysis for investors, click continue. But this time, instead of, working this quick load screen, what I'm actually going to do is come here to new and then back of the envelope analysis. And so this is going to allow me to look at, a condo building. Maybe I'm going to, sell these various units out as condos. So I can click on condo, and then you can see how this works. You can start off with an FAR-based analysis or a unit-based analysis, plug in all the details here, just like we did on the other quick load screen, hit the submit button, and then you can actually load and kind of see how all of this plays out. So let me show you what one of these looks like. I'm trying to think. There's office building, condominium, develop. Let's see if this one has some good stuff. Yeah, so this would be the next page. So you can kind of see how this works. Land purchase price, dollar per FAR, lot square footage, allowable FAR base. If there's any retail, you can actually plug that factor in, efficiency factors, all types of stuff here. And, the real concept behind these back of the envelope analysis, it's not going to be the end all be all, but it's supposed to be there so that you can be comfortable moving forward and actually spending real dollars on things like city planners and engineers and development costs like that. So it gives you a nice little understanding based on current market rents and what your knowledge is of, the community there. Are you going to be able to make money? Are you going to hit the right multiples on invested equities in order to kind of be comfortable moving forward here? So that's the back of the envelope stuff for you as well. All righty. So I know I just went over a whole lot of different examples here, but I think the key that I'd like for y'all to be able to take away is just being aware of how these different attribute kind of analysis sections work, being aware that you can use the trade area report to identify the attributes if you're trying to mimic what other folks are doing out there, just understand their thought processes in particular, and then being able to just be comfortable, starting off with your site selection before you go and look for properties. Because in my mind, why spend, time looking at all of Austin, Texas for properties when there's only probably certain neighborhoods or zip codes in Austin that are going to really fit the needs that your client has. So that's the key takeaways from my perspective. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer a couple of those. And then also, if y'all want, I can show you how to get started with the broker tools, which will, like I kind of said earlier, that will rebrand our website. Instead of showing RPR, it'll show Keller Williams Commercial or whatever company brand that you have, and it'll also brand that for all the agents that you provide us with as well. So. Go ahead.
Yes, we did have somebody say they would be interested in seeing the branding tools.
Okay.
Somebody also asked if there was a way to check for zoning when you're.
So yeah, within most of our, so this is an off-market property. A lot of times we will have the zoning details provided here for you. Usually it's down here, city mortgage. Yeah, if it's available for you, we typically provide it from the public records. I know Texas can be kind of interesting as far as what all is available via the public records. Let me see if I can pull up another one. And
Chuckle.
yeah, sometimes it's just not available publicly. And if it's not available publicly, then we really don't have a source to grab it from, I guess you would say.
Well, just buy everything in Houston where there are no zoning rules.
That's a free market at its finest, but. Yeah, so here's the location details. You can see the zonings provided for you. So typically it's going to be under that location area, or also the legal description. I see it a lot here as well.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So in order to see the broker tool and get that set up, what you're going to do is go to our blog page. And so an easy way to get to the blog is just by coming down here, click on blog, click OK. And so this is also, if you want to jot this down, it's just blog.narrpr.com. I know it's really creative, but then we can come down here to, the various segments, and right here, broker and owners. So this is where you will want to kind of start off. And if you're interested in any of the other kind of tools that we have available, like I said, most of which are going to be for the residential side at this point in time, but you can get an understanding of how the branding works here by looking at the broker tool set. But to enroll, you just go to this section. And you can see here, it's just basically filling out a quick form. And then it's going to give you a Excel spreadsheet. And basically we need to know, some basic admin stuff, the different agents that are in the office, the logo that you would like for us to use. And then what we kind of have to do is we have to tie each of those agents to, either an MLS feed in order to brand them and make sure that they are currently with your office, because we know that there is sometimes turnover. That's how we make sure that somebody that, you branded, a year ago is still with your office and should be utilizing that brand. So that's kind of how it works. But, the key here is to just come to this website, fill out this form, and then, like I said, you'll get access to the Excel spreadsheet and be able to submit those details that way.
Someone asks about the cost of that.
There's no cost. Everything that we do, there is no cost.
Because
As
you're realtors.
Right, exactly. Part of your RPR dues is what funds this. And, actually, it was funny. We just, in 2019, we readjusted all of our budgets. And I think the cost is down to something like, 3 lattes, for an entire year is the same cost as what you get with RPR. So, we're very proud of that kind of, I guess, benefit that we're able to provide y'all. But it's only valuable if you use it. So if you're not using it, let us know what we can do, what we can add, what we can take away, even to make it easier for you to use.
Here is an interesting question that asks if there is a way to screen for property with an out-of-state owner.
Let me think about that. An out-of-state owner.
We got you early in the morning and we're stumping you.
I know. That's fun though. I don't think so. One thing we are about to release is mailing labels. So that might be a way kind of offhandedly to do it. The problem you run into, especially on the commercial side though, is, typically these are LLCs that own the commercial properties. And we don't dive to that second level of, the board members or the partners within the LLC. So even with the, knowing that the LLC is out of, state, out of whatever, that might not necessarily mean that the actual partners within that LLC are not located within the state or within that city. Residential side will probably be a lot easier though.
Right. All right. Last call for questions for Nathan before we wrap up. Once again, we are stunned by the amount and granularity of the information available.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, especially once you start
with our mouths hanging open. I say this every time. If you have a spare hour or two some afternoon and you're not familiar with everything you can get with RPR, just pop open your laptop and start poking around. There is so much information available through this site. It's stunning. So someone's saying, thanks for great information. And someone raised a hand, but you'll have to type in your question if you have one, John. I'm going to start wrapping this up so people can type in their questions at the last minute. And if not, if we don't get any more. Thanks, Nathan. Again, thank you for getting up at the crack of dawn. I always forget that you're 2 hours ahead of us. So I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Several people have asked if we have recorded this webinar. Yes, we have recorded it. We will be posting the video on the Texas Realtors YouTube channel under the commercial webinars playlist. We will also post a link to that recording in the events tool on the Texas Realtors page. You will just need to go to previous webinars and click on this webinar, and it will pop up in the next couple of days and show you the link or the video itself. Someone asks, Nate, if you know if, oh, it's Nellie. Hi, Nellie. Someone asks if you know if HAR and Comgate are feeding into your information. They are.
The Houston Association of the Catalyst site is not at this time.
Right.
We've had some conversations with them. The good thing about us is we definitely value the fact that y'all as agents and the owners and operators of things like the Catalyst CIA down there in Houston, it's your data. We're just here to accept it if y'all want to share it with us and want to share it with the other realtors out there. Some people see the value in that, right off the bat, and as they're launching their CIEs, they go ahead and incorporate it. But other people, a little bit more protective of that data, which is understandable as well. So that's just a decision that the folks at HAR would have to kind of come to.
Okay, great. All right, I want to tell everybody that our next webinar will be on May 21st at 10 a.m. This webinar is going to be a market area webinar focused on the Austin area. We are hoping to do a whole series of these webinars on different market areas all over the state of Texas because You can have lived in Texas your whole life in one place and not know a whole lot about an area of Texas. And the world is getting bigger and smaller at the same time. So we feel like it's useful for everybody to learn more about other places in the state so that you can network with other realtors around the state. If you're interested in presenting a market area webinar for your home market, let us know. Contact Annie and we'll talk about that and tell you all the things we're interested in finding out. Just to remind everybody that there is a Texas Realtors commercial Facebook group. You can go on the Texas Realtors page, and then from there you can find the commercial group specifically. If you have an event or a class or anything like that you want to post on that group, you are always welcome to. It's not a listing opportunity, but it is a notification opportunity for networking, for classes, for that kind of thing. We want to let everybody get connected in that way. And I just told you that we're going to post the recording, so I think that's it for today. Nathan, thanks very much. Again, RPR is amazing. We so appreciate everything that you guys provide for us. If you have suggestions for more webinars or other information that you want to know, let Annie know. We're always looking for things to provide for you guys that will be helpful. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Nathan, once again, thanks. You're the best.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
All right. Take care.
Bye.